Jim, thank you very much for coming. I know that we're trying to work out some sort of electric dreams participation in your mega event. I am a big fan. I've been living in Los Angeles for the last 10 years, maybe a little bit more. And the Long Beach Grand Prix is just impregnated in the city. I think it's the coolest event ever. I've been there for a lot of times as a fan, but probably the past 5 years as a photographer. Even that weird year that you have two GPs in the same year. Good. Remember there was one in December, another one in April.
Well, we had one in September, and then
September.
we came back in April, and we did
Jeez, yeah,
another one
that
right
was a
away.
lot.
But actually, ironically enough, our first year we ran a Formula 5000 race in September of 1975, and we came back and ran a Formula One race
Yeah,
in March of 1976,
and that's
which
the one
was
that Mario won, right?
77.
77.
He
He won
won
the next year.
77. Yeah, Regazzoni won the
Oh
first
yeah,
race.
in a Ferrari.
Yeah,
Jeez, can you
yeah,
imagine
for
that?
Ferrari. Yeah, that was a
So
big deal.
I have many questions. I read a little bit about you, and I know that you were a racer. We raced Daytona, we raced Sebring, right, as a driver. And how important was this experience in the automotive world to put an event like this together? Like it, I know that's everything connected, and most of the people who are organizing races and Grand Prix and leagues and classes, they're involved somehow. But you were actually a driver.
Well, it stems back to the fact that the reason I'm involved with the Grand Prix, or have been for the last 50 years, is really a passion of mine. And a lot of people use that term, but it really is something that I've always been interested in: speed and activity of an associated nature. I bought my first cars were sort of hot rods, and to the extent I could afford them, I went drag racing because that's all I could, really do financially. But I didn't get involved in the actual competition side of racing until I was much older, although I wanted to, only because, from an economic reason, and also because I was heavily involved with the Grand Prix, it didn't leave a lot of time to go out and compete. But once I saw the opportunity available, I wanted to take advantage of it. So I started driving when I was fairly old. I was 49 years old, and have continued on now since. Well, I'm still doing it. I just got back from Monza the other day,
Oh,
racing in
really?
the rain. So I guess that's still a form of competition for sure. Yeah.
What kind of car are you racing there? Classics.
992 Porsche
992 Porsche.
992. Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah. But there were Ferraris and Lamborghinis. It's a GT,
GT.
European GT series. Yeah.
Very cool. The how was the beginning? Like, who? I know that you have a very strong partner to have the whole idea to have the GP on, but how was the idea to close the streets and put this race together, and especially to bring after the Formula 5000, bring Formula One to the. I bet the Formula 5000 was just like a sample of what you can do, or just like
Well,
something to show to the big races,
it
right?
was a test race because
That's
in
race.
those days Formula One required you to be able to perform. But however, let's just back up a little bit. The fact is that there hadn't been any street racing in America since 1952. Primarily because in those days it was very rudimentary. They ran it up at Watkins Glen, upstate New York. Hay bales along the side of the road. A car went off. There was a fatality of a young boy that ended street racing in America for 23 years. In 1970-ish, the city of Long Beach was looking for a way to change its image. It was basically a Navy town with some aircraft assembly up at the McDonald aircraft area up there, but that was it. And the city fathers were very prescient in understanding that they needed to change that image if they really wanted to grow the city. So they went out and they bought the Queen Mary and put it over on the other side of the harbor, but that didn't really move the needle much. And then a gentleman named Chris Pook, who was a local travel businessman, agent, approached the city with the idea, well, why don't we try to run a street race here, Formula One race, because it would bring not only economic impact, but tremendous amount of exposure. Formula One's international in scope, and the city wanted to have that kind of exposure. The problem was, at the time, it was illegal to do that. So the real challenge was, how do we come up with a safety system that's sufficient enough to guarantee to a city, to an insurance company, and to the residents that we could conduct a race in a safe manner and yet provide for all of those things that the city was looking for, which was that economic infusion of capital. They wanted the exposure, television exposure, that was primarily was in those days. And they also asked us, the third thing, they said, you got to make sure that the citizens of the city, that this becomes a community event, that they accept it. Whether they're race fans or not didn't matter. The idea was, or is this going to be an event that they find that they can be proud of, to say, hey, it's my city, we put on this big event every year, and it's a way in which they embolden themselves around what happened in their city. So those are the three criteria that were set out. I joined the operation with Chris back in 1975, first year of operation. We were a very small staff. We had like 6 people. And we had to go out and raise the money. So a lot of us invested money and brought our friends in so they could purchase the safety system, which was designed by a gentleman up in San Francisco, Dr. Peter Talbot, who worked with the SCCA up there. And he came up with the concept of the safety system that you still see in place today. The concrete block, the incline fence, and then you had tire pallets, and you had cabling, and you had to provide bridges for access ways, and that system, which he came up with then, still is pretty much in play today to certain modified degrees. But we went out, we bought that, we raised enough money to buy that system and put it in place. In September 28, 1975, we ran this test event, Formula 5000, which, by the way, in those days, Formula 5000 was a very competitive series. If you look at the entry list, in 1975, I mean, Mario was in it, Al Unser Jr. was in it. There was some really heavyweight guys because it was sort of like the next level down of open wheel racing in America. Yeah. So we ran that race, and then we did pretty well operationally. Financially, not so well. But we moved on immediately to March 1976. To put on the Formula One race. And we were successful at doing that.
And how was this process to approve with Formula One?
Well, what we did was we retained the services of some of the key players in the sport, not the least of which were like Dan Gurney, Phil Hill, and others came out and sort of worked with us. So it established some credibility as far as Long Beach being able to host an event like this, because a lot of people have never heard of Long Beach, so why Long Beach? Why not someplace else in the United States? Keep in mind that there was already, the Formula One race was already being conducted at Watkins Glen, but that was in the fall, so the idea was to balance that out by having an event in the springtime, and so once we put those key players in place, brought the F1 commission out, took a look at the circuit.
Was it Bernie Eccleston or?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. It was, Bernie came on board, well, he was involved in the sport, but as the head of the
Brabham team.
He was still the head of Brabham when he came out in 1976, but he was evolving into the role as the F1 Constructors Association, which he headed up.
Had a vote.
And we dealt with him after that, right? So we got permission to run the race. Most important of all, we got insurance to run the race. Okay, because without it, you couldn't do anything, absolutely nothing. And the city fathers were they were acceptable of the idea, but they were somewhat reticent to make sure they could work in their town. So they sort of said, okay, you got to meet these criteria and these mandates, and we'll watch and see what happens. Well, when they saw all the people show up and they saw the publicity and
after the test,
the first race, the 4,000-5,000 race was televised on CBS. Okay, not insignificant in those days because there was only 3 channels of national exposure for TV, right? And CBS was obviously one, NBC and ABC. So we got it on CBS, and people looked up and went, "Wow, that's my city!" And look at all of the
streets, my
people
corner
here. And even in those days, though, it looked nothing like what downtown Long Beach looks today.
Sure.
I mean, it was very, very barren all along the shoreline area and the development on the west side of the convention center, et cetera. We were on Ocean Boulevard in those days, running on Ocean Boulevard with parallel pits and racetrack. There was an X-rated movie theater, right, literally at the start-finish line.
Oh God!
On Ocean Boulevard.
We're gonna point the camera.
And CBS came to us and said, "You got to cover up those signs on that theater. Okay, it's not going to go this way." And we did.
They did.
But it was just an indication of what the city was trying to accomplish vis-a-vis what
the
was
president
currently
was.
there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we got through the 76 race, but the financials were getting really tough. I mean, you had to bring all the teams and the cars and the crews and provide housing for them, and it was expensive, even in those days. And then in 77, which was a really pivotal year for us because we were running short of funds. Why? Mario won the race. Sterling duel with Schechter and Lauda. He won the race. And that almost instantaneously gave us a degree of credibility in terms of this is a big event. Mario's a well-known name, and he just won the race in Long Beach. So what it started to do is it started to snowball in terms of authenticating what Long Beach could offer in terms of a venue site. We went along in 1980. Toyota became our title sponsor, became known as the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and was that way all the way to 2018.
2018.
Longest running
celebrity race. And
we had the celebrity race. What happened though is in 1983, our original agreement with F1 ended. So we had to then go back and negotiate with Bernie for an extension. And Bernie's prices, even in those days, were fairly large. I mean, he wanted to get paid for bringing the circus to town. We couldn't afford it because even in those 8-9 years, including the Formula 5000, we'd never had any real incidents, no rain, nothing to deter people from coming to the event. So we were putting close to 200,000 people in there.
Already.
Big money.
Okay.
But nothing was coming to the bottom line. That was the problem. So we looked up. We had stockholders. Like I said, we went out and raised this money. We had to, somehow find a way to get them their investment back or pay them a dividend or do something. We literally had a few $100,000 after bringing in millions. And we looked at that, and then when Bernie came back in 84 for the 84 event and said, well, I need even more, why, we just said it's not going to work. So we immediately pivoted and went to see what was then called CART, which was the Indy cars.
But just before we get into the IndyCar era, so we had 1 year running with Bernie in Formula One management, right? So only 1 year you could do.
No.
8 years with Formula One, but only 1 year with under.
But Bernie started assuming the role of Formula One Construction Association, FOCA, in 77, 78.
Oh, okay.
So we were under the aegis of that. all the way through '83.
Okay.
So there was actually 6 years of dealing
and
with
numbers growing, more audience, more
well,
television coverage.
we had it actually broke into two parts. It went from 76 to 80, and then 81 to 83. So there was two parts of it, but the numbers were large. I mean, it was expensive bringing all the teams and cars, and as a consequence, he needed to get reimbursed. And our challenge was, how do we make this profitable? Even though when people looked at the event, they went, wow, you know, you had Ferrari. The Ferrari club used to buy 6,000 tickets from us, and they had a whole grandstand, all red. Red caps, red shirts, red everything.
Cool.
And they were down at the end of turn, basically at the end of the long straightaway on Shoreline, drivers left before the turn in those days went to the right.
And
So-
82 had Jules Villeneuve racing for Ferrari. So can you imagine the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was spectacularly successful to the outside observer, but what we knew from the inside was it wasn't sustainable at that level to take on another 3 or 4 years and then find yourself where? What if it did rain? One time.
One time, 50 years.
It never did, but what if it did just once?
Okay.
You know, what would the effect be? And that was the kind of thinking that went into our deciding to make that change from Formula One to IndyCar. Fortunately for us, in '84, we knew there was going to be a drop off in attendance to a certain degree, you know, but our responsibility and our focus was to prove that Indy cars on the streets of Long Beach could be just as exciting, even if it didn't feature some of the more exotic international names and flavors to it. Fortunately for us, in 1984, Mario came back and won the race. So now you had the bridge was being gapped by Mario Andretti running in 77. He won in 84. He won in 85. His son, Michael, won his very first IndyCar race in 86.
86.
Mario comes back and wins in 87. So you had this drumbeat of names that people recognize, and now we're becoming heroes, but they were becoming heroes driving Indy cars instead of Formula One cars. So our attendance started to ramp back up again. So we got to the 87, 88, 89 time frame. Al Unser Jr. started to take over.
Won like
as,
4 or
the
5,
king of
right?
the beach. He won 6.
6.
4, and he missed a year, and then 2 more. And then we continued on. We got into the era of the Target cars with Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi and Juan Montoya.
Yeah.
And things were going really well. We got to 1990.
And then you start to get the personalities too, right? Newman Haas, Paul Newman was always in the
yeah.
paddock.
I mean, and meanwhile, you know, we had taken the event and created much more than just a race. At first, it was a race in Long Beach, right? But then as time went along, we began to expand on the concept of having 3 days of entertainment, which happened to feature racing. In fact, we got to the point where we were running 5 or 6 races on a weekend. But what we did strategically was we said, look, these are open wheel cars. Your headliner, that's fine. We got to do something else to attract a different audience. Sports cars, drifting cars,
Celebrity races.
celebrity cars, trucks flying
Not the
through
trucks
the
flying,
air,
yeah.
right?
I'm
Historic
very
cars.
afraid about those things.
Was that?
I'm very afraid about those trucks.
Well,
Yeah, if you get close to that thing, it's very
we've
scary.
had a few incidents with them, but that's part of the thrill.
Yeah.
People go, wow, you know what? Those cars are way up there over the
Yeah.
fence. But that was the whole concept. Then we opened a lifestyle expo, huge one. And by then, the convention center had been completed, and we started using all of that, which was very attractive to everybody to be able to come in and have different experiences there. And we had a fan zone, we had a family area for kids.
In the 80s, you had the Spruce Goose around.
But the Spruce Goose was still on the other side,
On the other side,
and
by
for
the
a while
Premier,
there,
right?
and then they moved it out of there. But you know, we had exotic car shows. We did different things, So that with two ideas in mind. One, you got to attract people who aren't real hardcore fans because it's street racing. That's what street races are all about. If you're a hardcore fan and you have a track that's 50, 60 miles out of town, you drive because that's where the racing is. But to, Joe Smith, who might watch a race once or twice, but not incentivized enough to go all the way out into a permanent circuit out someplace, which doesn't have a lot of the amenities that a street circuit has,
No.
it's tough. That's more of a challenge. But when I can hear the cars from my house, I'm going to go down and take a look at this. Mm-hmm. Or for a lot of people, the whole idea of being able to watch race cars go down Shoreline Drive at 180 miles an hour. I just was on Shoreline Drive 2 days ago, I was driving my car down there. I wasn't doing 180, but I still could feel what it was like to be on a racetrack.
And I can come off 2 days after the race and still see the zebras and see the tire marks.
The donuts in the street, thanks to Mr. Zanardi and others.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of attraction that brings people to a city event where they say, wow, you know what? I know this area. I'm familiar with this. I come down here all the time. And even if I don't, I've got restaurants. There's 21 restaurants or
inside of the circuit.
Inside the circuit. The only one in the world that's like that. Now, is that good or bad? Well, it's good in the sense that it offers some other options for our clients. Bad, we don't get any money out of that. Okay,
yeah,
so
because they're already there.
Concession business is I always tell everybody, I don't even want to share my per caps, which is a consumption figure with anybody. I said, because they don't understand. They go, wait a second, how can you have that many people and you don't sell enough? And I'm saying, because we got all these other attractions inside of the circuit to make it work. So that's the direction that the company has gone. Obviously when the split came along in the 90s and the 2000, that was injurious to everybody, because now people had to have an allegiance and the fields weren't comprised of the same groups it was before. It was Penske here, Ganassi here, So that definitely had an impact on the sport. But then they were successful in reuniting back together in 2008.
After the split.
From the split. And
which side you guys took on the split?
Say what?
Where do you stay on the split? You stay with CART?
Well, we stay with CART.
Okay.
Yeah, we stay with CART because when the IRL, which is what the other aspect of that was, it was primarily an oval circuit. They wanted to get back to the concept of the Indianapolis 500 and a bunch of ovals to go with it, which was a remnant of the old days when they were running with USAC way back in the 70s and early 80s. So we stayed with CART, but then CART eventually, they were able to work out an agreement to be able to reconnect again. And so in 2009, we ran the combined series now, okay, which was known as the Indy Racing League at the time. And we've continued on with them ever since. But simultaneous to that, we brought what now has become IMSA, which was the Grand Am, which was big sports cars, which was important because there's a whole, this Southern California, as well as anybody does.
Every single street to have one.
Sports car country, you know, and people have that.
Long Beach by itself has a big car culture too.
Yeah. No, way back, when when they had drag racing and they had, Ascot was literally up the
Here
street.
in Gardena,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a tradition for that. But keep in mind that our event is a regional event. Yes, it's focused on Long Beach, and we're a community event to the extent that, we have our offices in Long Beach and our people live in Long Beach, et cetera. But it's a regional event. Southern California primarily, but certainly the state of California. It spreads out into Vegas, Arizona, a little bit up in Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
And some come from the Midwest, and some international component too. It's surprising, but it's primarily a regional event.
Long Beach.
And that whole, what we call Greater Long Beach, Orange County, South Bay are our three key areas. Inland Empire is a contributor, and so, by the way, is San Diego. So it's a combination of people, but then that enables us to achieve one of the objectives of the city is doing economic impact.
Yeah,
in
a
a
huge
substantial
impact.
way. And
Last time I hear was like $300 million.
it's not quite that high, but ironically enough, we're right in the stage of doing a new economic impact study. By some of the professors out at Cal State Long Beach, which we're going to be unveiling here probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. But it has become substantial in terms of number of people that stay in town and eat in the restaurants and rent cars and do all those things. So it's met that criteria. We have 9 to 9.5 hours of national television, first-run television now from the event.
Now 9.5 hours,
is
2 hours for the race, qualifying, this kind of stuff.
No, yeah, the qualifying's in there, but then IMSA. IMSA has its own package.
And then GT.
SRO, GT has
Porsche,
its own package.
Porsche Cup.
Porsche Cup had its own package.
And you have the drift guys too.
And so we have drifting every year, and they have their own. So it's 9.5 hours of first-time programming, and more importantly, next year, when we celebrate our 50th anniversary, IndyCar has signed a long-term deal with Fox Network.
Yeah, they just changed it, right?
Which is not insignificant, because now every race, 17 of them, are all going to be on the same television channel. They can promote from race to race to race, and it's all network. It's not streaming. It's not
As a
cable.
fan, it's a little bit weird for me to follow because IndyCar has a very weird schedule. Sometimes they're racing on Saturday. Sometimes they're racing on Sunday. Sometimes it's 2 p.m. Sometimes midday. So hard to follow, and they don't have a clear. I say that to everybody related to IndyCar that comes here. Like it's hard to find. I have to ask for a journalist friend of mine. Can you please tell me when the race starts 15 minutes before so I can tune in? I think it's changing a little bit, especially because we have a growth on automotive culture with Formula One growing up and IndyCar getting a little bit more organized. And when you see people like Zach Brown talking about things like, oh, you should have a better podium here or should have more promotion there, I think he's right. Even IndyCar has a new TV series now covering the inside of the driver and stuff like that. So I think they're kind of getting the communication right. But if you follow like 2 or 3 years, it's kind of still...
Well, I think this deal with Fox will help that. One, because it's now going to be, they're all going to be live and they're all going to be on in LA on Channel 11. So you always know where it is. So if you're looking for it, it isn't one of those, is that on USA Network or is that on NBC?
Peacock
is that on Peacock?
Yeah.
And yeah, and quite frankly, that is confusing to a lot of people, you know, and it deters them because if they don't find it, then, okay, I missed it. I'll see the highlights or something. But if you know it's always on Fox, it's primarily on Sunday. It's in the afternoon.
Yeah, primarily kind of catch me. Why they're doing races on Saturday? What is the reason?
Well, the only time, well, they used to do it on Saturday sometimes because they could get better time slots than they could on Sunday, especially when
NASCAR.
NBC was covering NASCAR too. You know, you can't fit in reasonable times for 2 long races. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Either you got to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So as a consequence, it's a complicated process. But when you're the primary focus of a network's attention in terms of the broadcast, then 2 things happen. One is you can put it in bare slots, and the other one is when you tune in to St. Petersburg, they're going to tell you we're going to be on a certain time at Thermal, we're going to be on a certain time at Long Beach, and every one of those is promotable by the same network on this station that you're watching now. So it lends some clarity to your issue about, you know, where do I find it now? Ironically enough, NASCAR has gone in the opposite direction. They've got, I think, literally have 5 different outlets during the year, which means you're going to have to search around a little bit, TNT, Prime.
But NASCAR is less universal than open wheel like IndyCar and Formula One. I think NASCAR has this very specific audience.
Yeah,
and
there's no doubt.
It's not can grow inside of the audience, but it's never gonna hurt people here on the West Coast or Europe. It's gonna be very hard to. But IndyCar has this potential, especially because remember you just told me like back in the 80s, back in the 90s, we have Formula One drivers coming back and winning here and being popular here.
Yeah.
And the cars, for the guy who doesn't know much, they're very similar.
They are. If you're not a technical type individual who sees the differences.
3% will know.
Yeah. So, but the whole idea behind putting on these kind of events is entertainment. Okay? That's who we really have to appeal to because we've done surveys.
But it's talking about your event.
Yeah. I'm talking about street racing events need to be entertaining events because there's literally about 35% of the people who are avid followers of the sport that come to our event. That leaves 65% who go to one race a year, maybe watch 2 or 3, but certainly aren't in any way enthusiasts.
They don't know the teams, they don't know the drivers. They're there for the noise and for the fun.
Who won? Yeah, that guy in the red car or whatever it is. But they come to the race, they bring their friends. Social media is a huge thing nowadays. They get to go into the quote playing field because they get to go in the paddock, see the cars being prepared, run into a driver.
Touch the cars.
Yeah, those are the things that make it magical. And those are the things that people can bring their friends to and say, hey, you know what? This is exciting because of this, not because you got to know the starting grid and what this driver has done for the last 2 years. It doesn't matter. What matters is sun, fun, safe environment, really critical to running these events. Because don't forget, they're high profile. You put 194,000 people in for 3 days. God forbid if somebody has some nefarious concept in their head, we got to make sure that doesn't come to fruition.
Not only that, it's small incidents. I've been walking around your event for 5 years. I literally walk around the whole thing during the race, and I never saw anything of like a fight or an argument. It's just very chill.
Which is really important because if you're going to orient towards families, which you do, if you've been around, you see there's a lot of kids there, a lot of young people and young families. And mother and dad, they're not going to bring their kids to an event that has even the faintest possibility of something happening.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's contributed to that is the fact that from the very first year in 1975, we set a policy that kids 12 and under, children 12 and under, were free for admission and to the paddock. Very first year. We've continued that now for 49 years. The result is now I meet people at the race who shake my hand and say, you know what? My dad brought me, and now I'm bringing my daughter right here. And I'm looking at them and I'm saying, wow.
That's pretty cool.
3 generations now have come and enjoyed it. And one of the reasons is because you can bring your kids at a young age and get them involved, interested, dare I say, indoctrinated into the sport, into the event. And as a result of that, why you have a continuity there with regard to people coming back. And for example, when we go back and go into a renewal mode for our tickets, we have a substantial following of people who just come back because they can renew their own tickets without any seat licenses or anything like that. The advantage you have, if you bought it last year and you want to buy it again, you're going to give them a certain time for exclusivity with regard to buying those seats.
That's pretty amazing. We were talking about generations, and now I have a kind of a fun question for you. How many mayors do you have to deal with in 50 years? and also, following up question, how many of those brought you trouble? Because you have, they know about the revenue, they know how important it is, but they also know the complaints about noise, people closing up streets.
There's no noise.
There's
It's
no
sounds.
noise.
It's
Sound.
sound.
Sorry.
Okay, there
The
is no
roar.
such thing as noise.
The roar. So
There have been. Well, their terms are usually 4 to 8 years.
I have, before you go for that answer, I have a suggestion for you. Just run for mayor. We're gonna win anyway, and then you just command everything. Never. Just
never.
look. It's gonna. You can expand. They can just make it. No.
There have been some very positive ones, and there have been some ones who
Don't understand.
weren't excited about it. But
About it.
But they all recognize the value.
Okay.
So whether it was we embrace it, or whether it was okay, we're going to have the race. It's a big deal for our city. It's a big deal for our constituents. There was no real overt opposition to it. Some were just less enthusiastic than others. I mean, let's face it. From a political standpoint, racing has some negative connotations to it, a little bit, from environmental standpoint, the sound standpoint, aggregating a lot of people together, the potential for problems, all of that. So as a consequence of that, some of the more progressive mayors have sort of, been a little distant from it. But then there's others who have said, hey, we love it. We want to be a part of it. Invite them, to whatever events you have. We want to participate. We put in the
Do you wait for a nicer mayor to do specific changes? Like, I have this project that I need to extend the street a little bit here. Should I wait for the guy?
Yeah, but not really, because quite frankly, I don't want to get in a position where we're playing the political game. We're not a real political organization. I don't want it to be. Okay. We're a community event. And we sort of like to think that we can rise above.
But Jim, you kind of need them when you need to do big changes, like the how's it called, the big center over there where you have all the.
Well,
teams.
we've had some major changes. We've had course changes. We've
5 times, right?
We've had 7. Some of them are minor, some are major. But coming off of Ocean Boulevard and bringing it down was big. When the whole west side was developed, we had to reconstitute the course.
How do you lobby
3
this?
times. Huh?
How do you lobby this kind of changes?
Well, part of it
I'm curious.
Part of it is twofold. One is you got to work with the stakeholders who are involved in that, because they're the ones who can provide the greatest degree of opposition. But if you go down and you talk to them and say, here's the benefits. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to change this course that goes down by the aquarium so that you can conduct your business during race weekend and not be impacted by cars going through your little development here. But you also get the benefit of all the people coming down and to the race.
And showing the aquarium. You have a corner called the aquarium.
Exactly. So that's the stakeholders are an important part of it to get it. And then from a political standpoint, what we've tried to do is, as a community event, we have to reach out to all of the council people in all the districts, okay? So what you have to try to avoid is that any of the council people who I've had to go and talk to numerous times over the years when there were changes or whatever, renewal of contracts or whatever, it can't be a downtown event. It has to be a citywide event. Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? Because that was really important. I got to go and show them how the Grand Prix shows up in each one of those councilmatic districts every year. So what do? We put together a program where we go school education, and we take a car, we take a driver, and we take some materials out with us, and we go to every one of the council districts.
Oh my God, there's so much work.
Okay, but you have to do it. Second thing we do is we went to the Long Beach Unified School District and said, hey, we want to entertain your top STEM students at the race on a Friday. So we have 150 STEM students coming from all over the city, high schools all over the city, come to the race. We take them around. We take them into the paddock. They talk to the technicians and the engineers. we have a big lunch for them, and then we let them go out and enjoy themselves. We've done that now for 6 years. So you're looking at 1,000 people who are now sort of almost ambassadorial out into the community saying, hey, you know what, these guys, they're looking out for us. They're doing some things that are advantageous. Third thing we did, which is really important, is we said we need to create an event on Thursday night of race week that's open to the public for free. And it needs to, in some ways, resemble what they would experience if they had the funding and they had the resources to come to the race the next 3 days. But we call it Thursday Thunder, and we do it down on the circuit, and we have pit stop competitions, we have freestyle motocross, we have a car show, we have music, open to anybody. 12,000 people. 12,000 people.
That's on Thursday before the race.
Thursday night, Thursday Thunder on at the Pike, and that goes a long ways towards satisfying some of the council people. Say, well, my constituents can't afford to come to Grand Prix. I get it, but here's how they can. Here's how they can experience it and bring their kids and be involved. So those are aspects of it that speak specifically to how do you make sure this is a community event and it has ramifications throughout the entire city. One of the things we did back in '75, we created a volunteer group called the Committee 300. You've seen them there. They're ones with the red jackets, we call them.
Yeah.
We started in '75 with the idea that they were going to be like the ambassadors of the event. We had the Committee 300. We had 300 of them, with the whole idea that they would be key members of the community who would be
volunteers
in positions to not only volunteer but also talk to the political types. They knew them, and so if we needed to have a certain person go talk to somebody in their district or do something, well, we had those resources available to us. And that's really become a critical component too, because that group doesn't just do volunteer work for us, does volunteer work for the marathon, for the Martin Luther King parade, for the Belmont Shore parade, those kind of things. So you look up and you go, whoa, those are the Redcoats, right? I see they're associated with the race, but they're also out doing things in the community.
City, yeah.
So in the end, it's a combination of all of those things, which provides us the opportunity to do things, some minor, some major. I mean, every 3 or 4 years, we got to go back and negotiate a deal with the city. Used to be every year we had to go to the Coastal Commission to get approval to do the race in the Coastal Commission. That was worse, because then every year somebody had the right to stand up and say, we want to change something. We've had people get up and say, why do they have to run races all day long? Why can't we cut it down like 10 to 2? And we're going, we can't do that, okay? Economically, you can't do that. It doesn't satisfy our customers. But it's just those kinds of things that you need to have the resources to be able to negate any of that opposition that comes along. And to be honest with you, after 49 years, we've become pretty adept at solving those kind of issues. If we haven't by now, there's something wrong with us. So where we had,
and you still seem to enjoy all those troubles and issues. You seem like you're very,
you take them on in a good-hearted manner, in a positive way, and to the extent we've turned some of those people around, so they're now supporters instead of being alienated by the event.
Good for
so
them.
Much the better.
Yeah. Yep. How long before the race you have permission to start your installation?
We have 50 days.
50 days.
That number used to be 60, but that's one of those things that as time has gone along and as we had renegotiated those contracts, there's constantly pressure on the politicians, probably from the stakeholders, to cut that down.
There's a lot of structure that stays there for the year, right?
No.
No?
Nothing.
No, not even blocks, anything like that?
No.
The zebras are there.
The only time we did that, the one time we did that is I went to the city and I said in 2021, when we ran the race in September, And then we were coming back to run it back on its regular time in April. I said, please, give us an opportunity to leave some of the infrastructure in. And it was very minor. All the seats were gone, bridges were gone. We were allowed to leave some block up without any fence on it for those 6 months, but that's the only time. When the race is over, 20 days after, 50 before, 20 after, when that race is over, there is no resemblance of the racetrack there. To the extent that this last mayor who we had, who now is a congressman, said, I don't want to see any of the tire marks on the streets.
Jesus Christ, man.
None.
Oh, my God.
None. You know.
What do you do?
Coming out of the pits, going to the people doing donuts and turn one, the whole thing. I don't want to see any of that. So we had to go out and requisition a company that cleans the runways, takes the tire marks off the runways. We had to get them in there. And now every year after the race is over, we clean up that. You have to clean it up. The new mayor, it doesn't matter to him.
No,
The problem is
kind of cool.
Well, that's what we think.
Yeah, I think too.
It's symbolic. If a person comes down and drives down Shoreline Drive,
Oh,
if they don't see,
Here's the racing line.
if they don't see a red line and all that, gotta go.
Oh,
Paint
my
the red line
God.
over. So when you go 2 months after the race, the only thing that's there, the only thing that I said we're not going to remove is the start-finish line.
Okay.
Finish line is on Shoreline and it stays there
Well,
now.
but that side of turn 11, you kind of have no much of activity. You can kind of, right?
Well, but-
on the hairpin from that side, you don't have much of activity.
Yeah,
you don't
but-
have the restaurants and stuff like that.
No, it doesn't. But the problem with turn 11 is when we do drifting the weekend before and on our night, it's just a black mark
Yeah.
like that, So we got to take it off. That's the deal, And then those are the compromises you make when you say, hey, you're the whole city. We're the one who brings the circus. We'll see what we can do about working together.
That's very cool. One thing that I want to caught my attention is that how clear and how professional are your numbers. I don't want to mention here, but since we're talking about it, like Richard sent me a proposal, and there you have this very clear and very organized and very professional. We got a few sponsorship proposals, but what we have on yours is very clear numbers. And my question regarding this is, for how long do you have this organization of numbers? And I think you are very number orientated. And for how long became that professional? Because of course, when you have the first Formula 5000, you don't have nothing. Yeah. And how you build that, and who are the people in your office who are just going towards this? I know Richard came here, but how important it is to have that base to negotiate it, not even with the mayor, but with sponsors and everything else.
If you look back, we've had those kinds of marketing kits and brochures way back into the 80s. It's just been a part of what we do, because when in those days there was no electronics, digital anything. So we had to, we printed those documents. We printed them, and we print 1,000 a year, and go out and start distributing them, and have meetings and go through the numbers. And what's happened is they become more sophisticated. You got demographic information. You be able to display things more accurately. And the other thing was, with the digital format, you can change things if you need to in terms of potential offerings. Like when we present a proposal to somebody, that's a proposal that has certain unique characteristics because that's what they wanted as a part of their possible involvement. So everything is tailor-made, but that's the beauty of having a temporary circuit, is you can do that. If you have a permanent circuit, you got so many suites, you got so much area, you know exactly what it is, and nobody's going to say, hey, let's build another 3 suites here.
It is not that special if you have one main event. If you have the circuit, you need to fill that space the whole year, right? So the Long Beach Grand Prix happens only one time, and that's it.
Well, it's unique. Unique and different, and that's one of the things that's attractive about it. Is because you, in your mind and hopefully in the mind of our patrons, is April, spring break, Grand Prix.
Sun, Long Beach,
And
palm trees.
49 years. 49 years, it has not rained on Sunday. It has rained on Saturday.
Wouldn't be interested to see the race in
No.
the rain? No.
No, not while I'm involved. After that, no, you don't. Look, you can't sell fun and sun and excitement and energy.
Well, I'll be in
when
my
people-
I'll be in my house just watching on TV. It'll be
Yeah,
fun
when
to see those
people
guys
are
riding.
huddled up and they have an umbrella and no, that doesn't sell.
Okay.
That doesn't sell.
But it's not gonna happen. Spring break's never gonna happen. It doesn't rain in LA.
That's right. I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope so.
The what is for the future? What do we have for the future? Are you planning to a new extension, a change of circuit? What is your next project that you have in the back of your head?
Obviously, a lot of our focus right now is on making sure that the 50th is something that's really
Congratulations,
unique and
by the way.
different and
Congratulations.
celebratory.
Hell of achievement.
Yeah.
On Monday, we were shooting this on Friday. Carlos doesn't want me to talk about dates, but that's the day after Halloween. And this interview is going to be on Monday. And on Monday, you can get tickets for the 5th Long Beach Grand Prix.
Tickets will have gone on sale last Monday on November the 4th.
Okay.
For public sale, we've been on renewals prior to that. But that's an important time because we wanted to go out. We want to go out before the real holiday periods start because people's focus are different. Their expenditures are different. So we try to go out this time of the year to capture that first realm of people who are interested in coming to the race, and then we reinitiate all of that when we get to January and February and March, which are real intense times of development. But we've announced some things for the 50th already, and we have a number of other initiatives that we're in the planning stages of. We have a brand new logo. We put together a brand new race, historic race.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, we basically had 3 eras of open wheel cars. We had Formula 5000, we had Formula 1, and we've had Indy cars in one form or another. So the idea was on the 50th, because we've always had historic races. We've had historic Trans Am, we had historic GTO, we've had historic Indy cars, we had historic Formula 1 cars. So everybody was asking, so what are you going to do for the 50th? So the idea I had in mind is I said, well, why don't we do something that embolizes the whole era, 49 years. So we put together a race, a historic race. It's going to be comprised Formula 5000 cars, Formula 1 cars, Indy cars, all on the circuit, all at the same time. Never been done before. And what's going to be unique about it is that people like yourself, who were young and weren't here when there was Formula 5000, probably don't remember the early years of Formula 1. They're going to be able to see and hear the sensation of those cars all intermingled together for a 20-minute race, exhibition race on Saturday and another one on Sunday. And I think that's going to be really great.
Okay, cool.
Something totally different. We're talking to the Peterson Museum about putting on a display down there for a few weeks before the race itself, a big dinner. So there's some neat things that are going to be announced here in the next few weeks.
For the celebration of the 50th.
That's celebrating the 50th. And then after that, as we told everybody in the office, you only celebrate the 50th once, and then you turn around and you start thinking about where we're going to go in 26 and 2026.
So that's the biggest project now, the 5th.
Yep.
We have a Formula 5000 here. Did you see hanging there? You never see it? I'm gonna show you. We have the boss has a Formula 5000.
Which one is it?
It's a Lola.
Yeah, it's a Lola 332.
Yeah.
I know that, but there were a lot of them. The Baraxel car was the.
Okay, we can help me to identify because there's no plates. We believe that's the prototype.
Oh.
There's no chassis plate anywhere.
But that was the dominant. That was a dominant chassis. 332.
That car's a dead trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pointy.
Yeah.
All the tubes pointing to the car, to the driver.
Inside, yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. I don't know
Yeah,
about
and
that.
the driver's feet.
Yes.
The driver's feet were
by
like
the
the
radiator.
second thing that contacted the wall.
The
right
radiator
after
on
that.
your
Yeah,
feet.
That's, right.
That's it. The pedals on
Oh.
your feet. 3/3.
Those cars were
That's right.
not safe.
Yeah.
No, for sure. But who knew in those days, right? So.
Jim, it's a pleasure to be here. It was a masterclass. It's I feel very lucky to be living close to Long Beach and working here in the city, and know that you're there doing this great job, and to have this literally this masterclass about this event that is kind of very close to my heart. As I told you, I've been there on the past 5. I've been there on when Nelson Piquet Jr. won the Formula E championship. Exactly 30 years after his father won the Formula One championship.
Yes.
In '81
exactly.
with Brabham with Bernie Eccleston.
Yeah.
It's very cool to be close to someone who knows so much about car racing and has been in touch with all those legendary people, drivers, and people involved in racing car. It's really a pleasure. We have our full support for the Long Beach Grand Prix. We will be there somehow as a photographer, as an audience, or as a fan, or inside of a Formula 5000, right, Carlos? We don't know. Everything can happen.
You can buy a ticket if you want.
You can buy a
Come
ticket.
in and sit anywhere you want.
It's on sale,
Right.
and you're going to
That's
have the
right.
link
That's
below here.
That's
And
right.
I think everybody needs to participate, or at least one time go there and check it out, because it's very cool. As I say, it's super family orientated. It has so many restaurants around. As a photographer, I try to go on the opposite direction of my colleagues. So they always go to turn 1 and try to do the hairpin for the first corner. And when they come down, I'm always cross them. So as a photographer, it's very hard to make a plan, because it's a long circuit and you need to do one lap only. You cannot come back to the same place during the race. The race is too short. But I always have fun. I always come home like destroyed, like carrying cameras around and climbing bridges and going around. But it's going around that little river inside of the Hilton of the hotel over there.
Yes.
But I have my fun. It's a great event, and if you have the chance, just go, because it's amazing.
It's 3-day experience. It really is. And what we try to do is provide some element or a number of those that have an attraction for people. Okay, so if you're involved with drifting and you like to see drifting on Friday night and Saturday night,
And it's a complete different public, right? Because as soon as the IndyCar race ends and you can get out, there's new people coming in.
that's the beauty of it. Is like we say, you put 6 races on, and hopefully there's an element of each one of those that's attracted to people. So if you're not a hardcore fan, you just want to watch IndyCar racing, it's there for you. The rest of the time, there's things to do that occupy your time and make it feel like it's worthwhile being there. But if you want to watch SRO, GT America qualifying, head on out to the grandstand and sit there and watch it. So you have that option.
Yeah.
So it's that capability of realizing whatever it is that we have to offer at whatever time you feel like you want to participate. That's key to making it something that people want to bring their friends to, as opposed to just being, I'm an enthusiast, I love motorsports. I get it. But if I want to bring my buddies or my family or who aren't, tell me why I should go. That's why we want you to bring your family, because we'll show you, we'll entertain your children.
Oh,
we'll
the
entertain
expo. How
your
many
wife.
vendors you have there?
Yeah. We have
So 70 vendors on Expo. Yeah, and the Acura showroom before that.
Yeah,
you
the
can
Cooler
see.
Master guys with the simulators this year, who are going to be back with even more. Everybody gets to drive, that wants to, can drive the Long Beach circuit on a simulator, post a time, and see how well you do against some of the real drivers that are on circuit.
And the media center is the best out there. I need to tell you. It's a little far, but it's the best out there. It's a cool media center.
Yeah.
Let me put you in a hard spot before I finish. What about the celebrity race? When are we gonna have it again?
I don't know that you're ever going to see the celebrity race in a format that you saw it before. And there's a number of reasons for that. One is it is very expensive. And Toyota, to their credit, they did that for 40 years. 40 years.
40.
They started the celebrity race.
What was the car when they started?
1977 was a Toyota Celica.
Okay.
Celica, but not the liftback.
Yeah, this car is
Sedan.
It's a sedan.
Sedan type, yeah. but it's extremely expensive. And to their credit, Toyota did it right. First class, invitations, how they treated their guests, the training program they had coming out to the circuit, the accommodations, the dinners, all of that, first class.
So many layers in the back that I don't even know about it.
Yeah.
God.
I mean, and if somebody wanted to come along and run a celebrity race, and there were a couple of people, the entities that try to do a smaller version of it, but unless you do it at that magnitude, it's not going to attract the stars that you want. It's just going to be a local, we'll sign up a couple of TV people and, whatever.
Within a reason, we are in LA, so it's kind of easy to feel great with celebrities, right?
No. So it's very expensive to do, and it takes a lot of commitment because the sponsor, whoever it is, got to supply the cars
teams,
and the
tires,
training and all of that. So I don't see that, honestly, I don't see that happening in the near future unless somebody really wanted to take a project on and highlight, some unique aspect of their vehicles or something. But what you try to do is you try to integrate in other activities, like putting on a go-kart race or doing something where you might be able to get some of these same type of individuals to come out, but at a much less of a cost to either party. And quite frankly, one of the problems with the stars was the time commitment. We made them go up to Willow Springs for 4 days of testing. Training. 4 days. And they had to travel up there and back,
Maybe it would be more interesting to just jump in the car.
Yeah, right.
Save that money, jump in the car, let's see what happens.
Insurance, who's going to... Look, the agent, the celebrity go to the agent and say, hey, I want to do this celebrity thing with Toyota, right? And the agent says, well, okay, that's good publicity, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So how much are you getting paid for that? He says, no, we're
it's
donating.
Yeah.
They're donating money on our behalf to this charity. And the guy goes, wait a second. It's a 10-day commitment between training and everything. 10-day commitment.
But it's fun. It's fun. People
fun
like
for
it.
You. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And we did run into some opposition. People just saying, you know what? I just can't get away.
There was one big crash, right?
Well, there were a couple of them. Donny Osmond went upside down in turn one, ran into the barriers, and there have been some, but fortunately, nobody was injured.
No,
so
of course.
we'll see what happens. But I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about putting on another celebrity.
Optimistic
race.
about it.
Yeah.
So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. It's
big masterclass for me, for Carlos, I think, and for everybody who's watching.
Yeah.
It's very dear to our hearts, the Long Beach Grand Prix, and now we've seen with another perspective.
Yeah. So I hope it's instructive, but primarily for people to have the entertainment value that comes from attending the event, and especially on the 50th, which will be here on April 11th through the 13th of 2025. I think it'll be a unique experience for everybody. And if they want to get any more details on it, you can go to our website at gplb.com. All the information is there about what is going to be conducted on that week.
We're going to put the link below, and get your tickets because it's the 50th year. It's going to be full of people there. We're of people there.
Certainly hoping so.
It might have a slot car track there. We don't know yet. We're still talking to Jim and Richard. We're still talking to. I'm going to use this video to try to sweeten our deal.
Okay. All right.
Jim, thank you.
Thanks, Marco. Appreciate it.